Hey everyone, I'm Princess Link, and welcome back to Metal Gear Solid 4. Chapter 4. Standing before the altar, Snake tried to absorb what he just learned. A statue of Christ on the cross looked down upon Snake and Big Mama from its place above the altar. Blood flowed from where the crown of thorns cut into his forehead. I'm just like that statue. Is that what Snake thought as he looked upon it? A powerful symbol for the apostles. Needless to say, Snake wasn't Jesus Christ. Yeah. Are you sure? I'm kidding. He hadn't died for all the sins of mankind. Snake was just a living statue born from one man's obsession. But Big Mama hadn't fought on behalf of that faith. You fought for Big Boss, Snake said. But what about Ocelot? Why did he join you? What did he fight for? What am I fighting for? No, this can't be happening! What am I fighting for? The same as me, Big Boss. He didn't fight for the Pentagon or the Russians, and certainly not for Zero. Ocelot was dedicated to Big Boss. He idolized him. Like he loved him. When I think about it, Ocelot had a terribly complex role in Shadow Moses. He participated in the rebellion of Foxhound and was a spy for the Patriots, but his real goal was to outmaneuver the Patriots, bury one of their founders, and retrieve Big Boss's body. But now his body was controlled by Liquid. Big Mama said, "We can't allow Liquid to inherit the same sins that corrupted Zero, manipulating people's minds for the sake of his own ego." Just then, the sanctuary doors opened. Snake and Big Mama reflexively spun to face the intruder, a lone man in a buttoned-up trench coat and a hat lowered over his eyes. He looked like he just walked in from a noir movie. The resistance fighters raised their guns, a hive of bees ready to strike. But Snake felt something was wrong. The coat fell to the floor and the silhouette of the man crumbled and split off. The rebels yelled in surprise. I couldn't blame them. The supposed man was really 3 small surveillance robots standing on each other's shoulders, like 3 kids in a trench coat pretending to be a grown-up. Each robot was a black orb the size of a bowling ball with 3 long, slender humanoid arms. They shed their disguise and scattered across the floor and up the walls. Big Mama said, "Give!" and took a gun from one of the young fighters. Immediately, she shot one of the robots on the wall. Then she moved a gun in a smooth arc and fired shots at the other 2. The robots skated around the room with infuriating dexterity, but seconds after the first had fallen, Big Mama's unerring aim finished them off. The resistance fighters exchanged troubled looks, some biting their lips. "Scarabs," one said. "Unmanned scouts." Without emotion, Big Mama said, "They found us. We're moving out." Either this was a frequent occurrence, or she was handling it gracefully, so as not to rattle her men. Her reaction impressed Snake. Now he knew why this woman who called herself his mother had so many followers. Who called herself his mother? She is his mother! I'm gonna kick your ass. Not really sure who that was directed at. From the satellite image feeds and the density of wireless transmissions, I could see the PMC were quickly converging on the monastery. I told Snake they would be on him in less than 5 minutes. Big Mama headed outside to the vehicles. The resistance fighters were already preparing their escape. She walked up to the driver's side of one and asked the driver, "Are they ready?" "As they can be." Big Mama lowered her voice. "We'll send the real one through the canal route. Get it ready. Hurry." "Yes, ma'am." The gecko's cries rang through the air, and all eyes turned to the bright moonlit sky. The howls of man-made beasts filled the empty streets. "You mean moose?" Snake knew the situation was about to get bad. There wasn't even time for a smoke. Big Mama called him over to a row of motorcycles beside a garage. Some already had riders warming up their engines. As she walked into the garage, she said, "We've got decoy vans set to draw some of our pursuers away." At the rear of the space, a motorcycle slumbered beneath a tarp. Eva threw aside the cover. Dust flew off the plastic and danced across the beams of moonlight coming in through the windows. "She's a Triumph," Big Mama announced. The bike was a T120. Designed in 1959 and the first of the Bonneville models, it had retained a persistent popularity. Even in the 21st century, its parts were still sought for tuning. At one time, auto race fighters, believing the Triumph engines would bring out the best in their racing abilities, competed over Triumph and engineering engines. A vintage bike suited Big Mama, beauty and power combined. She rolled the motorcycle outside and indicated the resistance fighters' quiet, frenzied preparations with her eyes. "They're all orphans," she said softly. "As children, they all worked in arms factories, and when they grow up, they want to join a PMC. They seek revenge on other companies, the PMCs that killed their parents. Their pay goes to support their younger siblings. There are countless child soldiers in the PMCs, much like Raiden. What happened to Raiden as a child seemed to me the worst act one human could do another, but that was only the very beginning. He was sent to America, where he joined the army. He was put in the Patriots' fake Foxhound unit and underwent endless VI training. Nowadays," Big Mama said, "anyone with access to the net can get combat training. The PMCs distribute popular FPS games for free. Of course, it's all just virtual training. It's so easy for kids to get absorbed by these war games." In order to recruit personnel, the PMCs had to lay the proper groundwork within the culture. They needed a culture that raised children who were ready to leap into war. By cultivating that culture, they could secure the manpower to carry the future of their industry. And before they know it, they're in the PMC holding real guns. These kids end up fighting in proxy wars that have nothing to do with their own lives. They think it's cool to fight like this. They think that combat's life. She gave Snake a hard look. They don't need a reason to fight. After all, for them, it's only a game. "It's the war economy." Snake's face twisted with disgust. That's not to say that past wars weren't about making money. When kings and lords reached past their own borders, it was always about money. What Snake abhorred was the hiding of the seas of blood and the stench of rotting meat under a sterile cover. What they called an economy was really just war, same as always. The children had been blinded to the nauseating realities of war. The image of the battlefield became sterilized. The groundwork was being laid for a world in which all people fought in proxy wars. Big Mama spoke with a low, forceful voice. "Zero is the cause of all this. Defeating Liquid won't change things. Unless we stop the Patriot system, the cycle will continue unbroken." She stepped on the pedal and the vintage bike roared to life, its engine humming and vibrating, a noise wholly unlike the creepy, unnatural roar of the gecko. This was a real machine, rough-hewn and comforting. Big Mama beckoned Snake to sit behind her, and he did. She took a moment, absorbed in the nose of the idling engine, then let out a sigh of ecstasy and said, "With so many wars being waged, oil and biofuel have become as precious as diamonds. It's been a while since I went out for a ride." "You sure about this?" She threw him an over-the-shoulder grin. "I only get off my bike when I fall in love, or fall dead." Then Snake saw it in her eyes. Saw dead. Yearning for something that is lost. Perhaps she saw Big Boss's face in the man who was both her son and a clone. "Call me Eva." She signaled the departure and her fighters faced out the open gate. They split into 3 teams, one for each van. Motorcycle squads ran alongside each vehicle. The one led by Eva was likely the real one, with Big Boss's body inside. If the enemies got their hands on it, everything would be over. With the curfew in effect, the streets were empty save for PMC troops, and there's no reason for the Paradise Lost to watch their speed. But the European city, with its long history as a fortress town, was built with a complex network of twisting roads, much to the detriment of both past-day invading armies and present-day commuters. The city had been untouched by Allied tank battalions during World War II, even escaping Hitler's wrath. So the streets remained perfectly preserved in all their nuisances. The narrow, widening roads held back the speed of Eva and her men. But the same was true for the PMC forces, and they probably didn't have motorcycles either. Hard to imagine them gaining much ground in their armored personnel carriers. A sound cut through the air and something flew by overhead. "A slider!" I yelled. A bird-like unmanned combat aerial vehicle like the one we saw in the Middle East, gliding around with wings like a raven and coming at Snake head-on. "Snake!" Eva shouted. "Do something!" He took out the submachine gun and fired on full auto. But head-on, the slider had a slim profile and was exceptionally hard to hit. "Shoot!" Snake said. The slider's mounted gun began to shoot. The weapon was located where the bird's head would be. Unlike the wings, that part of the machine could remain steady during flight. "Hang on!" Eva yelled. She deftly maneuvered the Triumph to the side in a movement so quick the bike didn't seem to turn at all. The drone's machine gun fire passed beside them. The rear end and bikes managed to evade the attack, but their riders had managed to fire back like Snake. "I'm turning!" Eva threw her kickstand into the ground and spun the bike around in a bowel-wrenching turn. What does that mean? The rest of the squad managed to follow, but Snake felt sorry for anyone having to keep up. They came onto a thoroughfare with PMC patrols stationed here and there alongside the road. Those quick enough to notice the Resistance's motorcade fired whatever weapons they had, but the targets shot by too quickly. Nearly all of their shots missed their targets. A high-pitched shriek made Snake turn to see a slider fly out into the road, right on their tail, firing indiscriminately after the Resistance forces. Several PMC soldiers were struck down by the bullets. The slider gave no regard to friend or foe. "Snake!" Eva said. "In front!" Another slider was rapidly approaching. "What do we do?" Snake asked. "Push through. What else? Just pray for luck." "What about the side road up ahead? Can you make the turn?" "That goes backwards. It can't be more than a 30-degree angle." This was essentially a U-turn. Not even Eva, with that maneuver, she pulled before, could make that turn at their speed, let alone the rest of their entourage. It was as Eva had said. All they could do was try to pass under the oncoming slider. Then an APC came out from the side road. Its loudspeaker cheerfully called out, "Snake, you need me?" "Drebin!" What got Snake's attention even more than Drebin's sudden and surprising entrance was Little Cray, standing atop the APC, an RPG-7 in hand. The vehicle slowed to let Eva's motorcycle catch up. "You think we can make a deal here, old Snake?" "Please!" The APC pulled right up next to the Triumph, so close they were almost touching. Little Gray stretched out his long gibbon arm and handed Snake the rocket launcher. Eva yelled, "Snake, it's coming!" Snake stood on the back of the bike, lifted the RPG-7 to his shoulder, and took aim at the slider in front. "I'm throwing this one in for free," said Drebin. Snake glanced at the APC. He was aiming at the slider and back. "I'm not really sure what's going on here," said Eva, laughing, "but you guys are really fucking weird." Snake didn't have the time to laugh, but he was bemused by the idea of a monkey and a snake fighting together. "Fire!" Snake said. The monkey and the snake fired simultaneously. Yeah, because this is definitely nowhere near as ridiculous as anything that happens in the actual game. So Eva finally gets to say the F word. Yeah, she said it in the Japanese version of Metal Gear Solid 3, but we changed it in the English version, and I'm mad. Just as they had launched together, so did both rocket-propelled grenades find their targets. Before it and behind the racing squad, orange flames burst into the night sky and cast their light upon the city. "We got a #1 victory royale. Yeah, what night we about to get down. Get down, 10 kills on the board right now. Just wiped out Tomato Town. My friend just got down. I revived him, no heading southbound. Now in the Pleasant Pike streets. Open the map, go to the mark sheet. Take me to your exit play Fortnite today. You can find me in Misty Mire, but not Loot Lake. I really want to chug with you. We can be pro Fortnite gamers. Well, Snake, Trevin said, gotta run. The APC turned down a side road and fighted with the convoy. I wasn't sure if he activated the octo camera or not, but I lost sight of him within seconds. What an odd man, Eva said. Who is he? A gunman. For some reason, he seems to like me. Another howl. This wasn't over yet. Oh my god. Then came the hailstorm of grenades. It was practically a carpet bombing. The two sliders shot down by Snake and Little Curry had been nothing more than decoys. Amid the battle, a third slider had stealthily flanked them. The van rolled over from the force of the explosions. The vehicle came careening at Eva's bike, and just as it was about to flatten them, she yanked the handlebar to the side. The Triumph tumbled sideways. Snake and Eva were flung off, smacking against the wall of a building partially destroyed by the bursting grenades. The van brushed past them and slammed into another house. Snake had been battered against the stone wall, but most of the impact was absorbed by his sneaking suit. He stood, coughing violently, and looked at Eva. Under her leather jacket, she wore only thin clothing, not enough to protect against that amount of force. Her face was chillingly pale. Beads of sweat ran from her hair and down her forehead. Her right hand reached across her stomach, clutching at her side, trying to hold her life inside while it slipped away. I couldn't see if it was a fragment of a grenade or a chip of pavement, but whatever the thing piercing inside her was, it looked fatal. She gazed up at Snake, her eyes distant. My children? He looked down the street. The motorcycle squad had been wiped out. One rider had a caved-in skull, another had bones protruding from all over his body. Mero! The lady from X-Men. I love X-Men. Speaking of X-Men, one of the voice actors from X-Men Evolution died recently. The guy who voiced Cyclops in X-Men Evolution. He was also in Death Note. I think he was Mikami? Maybe? Anyway, yeah, he died I guess it wasn't that recently, but it was late last year. It's insane. He was in his 40s. Anyway. And another was covered in shrapnel, their bodies still upon the drying pavement. Snake walked over to where the van was rested on its side. The rear door hung open, empty. Eva's hearse was a decoy. With a deeper appreciation for her strength, he walked to the driver's side door. He checked on the limp bodies of the driver and another youth in the passenger seat, but it was already too late. Snake turned to Eva and shook his head. I'm so sorry, she said and closed her eyes. He walked back over to her and said, So it was a decoy. I'm impressed. Not just this van. All of them were decoys. The pigs is safely floating down the river. Eva, are you all right? He inspected her side. Her gloved hand was wet of her own blood. A bird called in the distance. Was it a sign of morning's approach, or was it Death's scout? Big Mama, can you stand? Snake, she said, her voice fevered and weak. Her eyes were vacant, unfocused. Is that you? What she saw in her half-conscious state wasn't the snake in front of her, but another man who had once had the same code name. A man who had once saved her when she was gravely injured in the fires in Soviet Russia. Coincidentally, that wound too had been in her side. The man I love. The man I once loved. The man whose eyes I knew were only for that strong, righteous, great woman, yet who I still couldn't stop myself from falling for. That's why I gave birth to them, to your children, to you. Something that not even the woman you loved could do. Yes, maybe I was jealous. Maybe I was jealous. What I felt toward her was beyond the concept of love versus hate. Maybe it was wrong of me, Snake, to bear your children. Snake, Eva, I need you. Then Eva came back to reality. She curled her lips, blood trailing down from the corners, into an unnerving smile. A mother's work is never done. With one arm still to her side, she pushed herself up with the other. Drops of blood dripped from between her fingers. Snake gave her his shoulder and asked, "What now?" Land and air routes are cut off, but a cruiser is waiting for us at a rendezvous point on the riverbank downstream. Good thinking. As she leaned against him, he let her lead the way. But after a few steps, she stopped. She took a few moments to look at her overturned Triumph. I don't need to feel the wind anymore. I don't need to keep lying to myself. She pulled away from Snake's shoulder and walked by her own strength. I only get off my bike when I fall in love, or... She walked to a manhole near the side of the road. She looked down at it, and Snake understood. Together they lifted the cover. The underground aqueduct leads to the river. There should be fewer of them down there. They climbed down the ladder. If you like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.